Okay, Dean, I'm just going to let everyone in that's been patiently awaiting this, and I'll keep admitting as we go. So, welcome everyone to the North Florida Luxury Mastermind. We typically do this every month, the third Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, I appreciate you letting me move it 1 hour for Dean. Dean, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself and let them know where you're zooming in from so they know why we pushed it back an hour to accommodate, because this is morning time for you. Good morning.
Thank you, Brandy. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for your, thanks for helping out. The 6 o'clock is a little bit early for me. So it's 7 o'clock here in Maui. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you guys for an hour. Brandy is one of my favorite agents in Keller Williams, one of the first agents that I met when I joined Keller Williams 7 years ago. And so it's been a great run for me. I'm just in love with Keller Williams. It's been an amazing 7-year run for me. My business went from $20 million to $80 million in
Wow.
4 years. Yeah. And when I first joined Keller Williams, so I just literally launched straight into Keller Williams Luxury from a very small boutique company that I worked for before. I've been in the business a long time, but I've only worked for 3 companies. The first 2 companies were 6 people only in the company. So I come from very small organizations on a very remote island in the middle of nowhere. So, recognizing the need to broaden my horizons here and be a part of this amazing network is really what drove me to Keller Williams. And it's been an amazing run. So thank you.
So when you say, I have so many questions for you, so I hope we get them all in. So when you say you went right into KW Luxury, tell me what you did to just start networking and getting really engaged with the community.
Sure. So a big reason for joining Keller Williams was to get into the network and to meet amazing people like you guys. And really, I'm in a very remote location right now. And I got to a point where I realized that to get beyond the plateau that I was at, I really needed to expand my horizons and really tap into the referral network. And so what it meant to me was coming from a small independent boutique company with my own personal branding and marketing that I'd done for like 20 years, and just dropped it all completely. I dropped all my branding, I dropped my logos, I dropped everything, and I just picked up the Keller Williams logo and the Keller Williams, benefits, and just went out and started pitching Keller Williams as my program. And that's all I did. I literally had no program. All I had was the backing of Keller Williams, and was heading out into this market in Maui to be able to grab listings. And I'm a listing agent, so I'm an individual. I've always been an individual from day one. I have a half-time assistant. So I'm a very skinny operation, and been able to leverage into this market through my referral network. And as I say, I hang my hat on Keller Williams Luxury as a way for me to get out there and recruit. None of my clients are on Maui, right? So they all believe in the network. They'll believe that this is the way to go. And, it's been a great thing for me. So.
I love it. Well, it's funny because I had my own brokerage and everyone's like, why did you, shut down your brokerage and merge with Keller Williams? And it's like, I'm still a broker, but, I wanted, it was really for the benefit of my clients. It had less to do with me. It was putting my ego aside and going, okay, I'm not the most important person to have my name everywhere as the owner, right? I can still, and then funny enough, now I own a couple Keller Williams franchise. So it did lead to some amazing opportunities, but I have to say being an individual agent, I think is really important to talk about some of your numbers. I mean, that's pretty impressive to go. I mean, I had a team and I couldn't get past 25 million and I went to KW and got to 60 million. But when you say you're an individual with an assistant that's part-time, to go from 20 to 80 million, that's a huge accomplishment.
Right. It's actually really easy. You just have to raise your price points. No, so what I'm doing is, as I say, I've literally been a luxury agent from the day I started in real estate, which has now been almost 30 years, right? So when I first started real estate, I was recruited by a principal broker in a really exclusive high-end resort on Maui. He thought that because I had an accent that I would be able to pull this off. And so he hired me as a rookie agent when I was straight out of college. And ultimately, this organization that I worked for in this resort, they didn't allow me to sell outside of this community. So all I knew was this community, and that's all I was allowed to sell. And if I had anyone else, I had to refer them out. So I was sort of forced into luxury. It wasn't really necessarily a conscious choice. I just ended up stumbling into it, and that's all I've done for 30 years now. So this year, my mid-year numbers are 33 million in volume, and that's with 8 transactions. So I have a $4.1 million average sale price, and that's really how you do it, right? So I wouldn't be able to do it with just a half-time assistant if I didn't have a high price point like that. But ultimately, $4.1 million average is certainly helpful.
So you have a very unique approach to how you actually serve the luxury client. You had shown me an example of just these really specialized note cards that you send out. I mean, everything you do has a specialized touch to it. Do you want to kind of talk about a little bit about the experience and how you serve that luxury clientele?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that I'm not your typical luxury client or typical agent in the sense of how I interact with my clients. When you're doing 8 transactions in 6 months, you can really sort of zero in on that client and really create a great relationship. All of my clients are really good friends of mine. So my theory is, I'm out there making friends and forming relationships with people and really creating an environment that people will enjoy and have fun with and work with. So ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what you do or how good you are, what your listing presentation looks like, clients want to work with who they like. And I think we forget that too. I've got people that come in with 80-page listing presentations and they flop them down on the desk, and that's great and all, but these people are not even reading or listening or comprehending what you're saying until they've first decided that they like you. And so I think for me, I spend a lot of time working on relationships. I'm an agent that's out forming friendships. I'm not an agent out forming relationships with clients. And I think, when you're doing, 20 transactions a year, you can do that. So very, very personal. As I say, I don't send typed out letters to anyone. I do my own pencil drawings, and I make cards out of my pencil drawings, and I write handwritten notes to people. So it's very personal. I don't buy gifts for clients. I've never bought a gift for a client at closing ever. And I just feel like when you get into this luxury division of this caliber of a client that's averaging 4.1 million a purchase, to me, it's almost offensive in my opinion, because I think I want to be at the equal level of their heart surgeon, of their CPA, of their #1 attorney. And I don't see anyone's attorney giving me gifts after a transaction or anything like that too. So I just feel like I want to elevate myself to a status of like your main attorney or your main heart surgeon. And that's how I expect to be treated by my client. And that's the relationship that I pursue with them. I have very close friendships with all of my clients.
I love it.
Answer your Yeah.
Yes, and you've actually shown me some of the handwritten or hand drawn. Or you're quite the artist. And if you ever follow Dean on social media, I love your listings, Dean. They're gorgeous. I share them all the time. But honestly, I follow you for your art and your garden. You have an incredible.
It's so funny, yeah. It's actually almost embarrassing, but I get so much. I've just posted a $12 million listing yesterday, and then the day before that, I posted my new bananas that came in. It just happened to be my first bananas, and I got like literally twice as many looks and likes and comments from my bananas than I do from a $12 million listing. And so it's a little bit hard to figure, but I also do a newsletter, which is very personal, where I feature my garden and my drawings and all. And my typical e-blast open rate is around 45%, depending on what it is. But my newsletters are getting as high as 65% open rate, which is pretty high. But
that's incredible.
It just shows you that people want to know more about you than just, it's great. Anyone can close a transaction these days, sort of like escrow to me, right? Every escrow agent that I know can close a deal and really good at it, but we choose to work with the people we like, right? And I feel like it's the same way too. I don't want to be the escrow agent that can do the deal like everyone else. I want to stand out and really have a great relationship with people and bring them into my personal world a little bit.
So let's talk about something we talked about before. Speaking of just kind of really specializing now, you have a unique approach. You very much believe in farming one neighborhood at a time, and you kind of really master the one and then move on to the next. And you do it on a budget. I mean, your expenses, when we've talked about this, are incredibly low. So You're putting the time in, but you're doing it in a way that it's super customized. They look at what your online presence looks like, and they know you're the expert. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what I do, I mean, people ask me all the time, how do I break into luxury or how do I grow my luxury business? And I think that's the billion-dollar question just went up. And I think what I do, which is really, I just have always done it, and I've just realized that that's the way to go. And I'm very, very, very specialized in what I do. I'm very much a niche broker, right? So I have a half-time assistant, and I got tons of listings. I keep pretty busy. So I'm committed to farming. That's the only marketing that I do. I don't do any lead generation for buyers. I only farm for listings, and I only farm in a specific neighborhood per year, right? So I identify a community that I want to take down this year and go in and compete against the other agents and try and snag some of those listings. And what I do is identify the area, the community, or the building, whatever it is. And that's the only thing that I do the entire year. My entire focus is on one community. I already have a bunch of communities that I've worked in the last 20 years, so that program continues on, but my dedication for this year is going to be very specific. In fact, this year I'm not tackling a community, I'm only focusing on over $10 million listings. So it's a little bit ambitious, but it's a really great niche to target because not a lot of people target those. And what I do is I target a small enough niche for 1 year so that those people will know me. You know what I mean? Like branding is about getting people to understand who you are and what you do. I can't brand myself over the entire island of Maui, so to speak. But what I can do is focus on a neighborhood, become an expert in that neighborhood, win that neighborhood, and then move on to the next neighborhood and leverage the success of that neighborhood, right? So as I told you earlier, I started in this really beautiful community called Kapalua in Maui. It's super high end. Our homes start at 5 million. So, I think what I've done is I've just realized that for me, farming is the way to go. I'm a listing agent. And what I do is I create a website for that community, right? So if this was a Kapalua community that you decided to focus on for this year, I would create, kapalarealestate.com or something to that effect. I would customize. What I do is I take the free template website that everyone as a Keller Williams agent gets. So I take a free website template, I customize it for this neighborhood, put all the beautiful pictures of this neighborhood on it. I, make the domain appropriate, and I go out and I chase this neighborhood down. I farm and I postcards and I send letters to them and I drive them to that website. And on that website will be every sale in the last 20 years. It would be everything that's ever happened in that community. It doesn't just have real estate on it. It'll have a home for sale, and then it'll have a restaurant, it'll have a school, it'll have a business. And what I do is I promote the entire community as well as the real estate, right? And I sell that neighborhood. And so when I go into a listing presentation and I'm competing with the person that has all the listings already, I can go in there and show them my focus on their neighborhood, which no one else does, and show them that I have all the information and I have all this, the data for this community, and I'm zeroed in on this community, and I get a lot of traction that way by showing them that I'm actually committing to the neighborhood and providing real value, right? Real value to a seller is knowing what's selling, knowing what's listed. Every time a new listing comes up, they get a postcard from me, whether it's mine or not. But I just hammer that community for a year and drive them to my website where I put all this information in for them specifically. And then what I do in addition to that, if you want to take it one step further, I go into command and I do Facebook campaigns around this website and this community. And when I do it, I typically spend about $700 a month, I think is what I'm doing. And I'm generating about 300 leads a month, right? So when I go into a listing presentation to compete with the person that has all the listings, I can take them to my website. It shows that I'm committed and dedicated to their community, specifically adding value to them. And then I can also tell them that I have 300 leads a month that I'm generating for their community based on this website and this effort that I'm committed to. So farming is great, but if you don't, in my opinion, when you send a letter to someone, the first thing they're going to do if they don't pick up the phone and call you will go to your website. And if they don't see their properties or the neighborhood on it, then we've lost them. Right. Yeah. So for me, farming is delivering real value to people, giving them their own information, because the reason why people scroll through websites so much is because they're looking for some specific information. And if you don't have any specific information for anyone, you'll never get traction with your website. So my point is, don't cast your net so wide. You zero in on a market that you really want to break into. And I think that if all of us on this, on this call picked a neighborhood and went
Right.
out there and took all these neighborhoods down as a network of people. And you're in a region where you can do it, right? And you all start sort of picking your communities and targeting your community and delivering that kind of value to clients. You almost can build a web, around your communities, and Keller Williams actually will really gain a lot of ground by that. I do it all the time, and it's a great program for me. As I say, I can net 90% of my income because I'm using template website, I'm using command Facebook, command programs and stuff that are very inexpensive. And really, ultimately, it's just a way to build a listing presentation so that I can go into these listings and I can win these listings. But you got to have something to get those listings away from the people that have them already. But that's how I break into neighborhoods. And I've been doing it for a long time, and it's been fairly successful. But I will say this, so that I'm still leveraging my original win on my farm program from it's been 25 years since I was marketing this program in Kapalua, and I'm still getting listings based on that effort to promote and work that neighborhood. I just sold a $10 million listing in Kihei that I got from a guy who, when I had the listing interview, he's like, "Oh, you're the guy who sells those expensive homes in Kapalua." So that's 25 years ago, right? So, I kind of go from farm to farm and expand that way. But, I think it's the only way to grow a business, in my opinion. And if you're thinking luxury, there's no other way to break into these markets without delivering real value. These people are smart. They need to see that you're delivering something, and a website that gives them all the information about their community is a great start.
So what I hear you saying is the same thing Gary Keller talks about all the time is, people are going to do business with who they know, like, and trust. You can have a 100-page listing consultation. I mean, people ask me for my listing consultation all the time, and I'm like, it's irrelevant, because if they don't like the way that you're consulting with them, it doesn't matter what you have in front of them.
Exactly.
And it's specific
I don't
right
even
to
have
you
one
anyway.
yet.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
have
like,
a listing presentation right now. Yeah.
I don't even ever open it. It's like,
Right.
so it's great to teach around, like, concepts like this. And what else I'm hearing is you're focused on listings. Gary talks about this all the time. It's MREA listings are always the most important. The buyers will come. And then you're using you're hyper local. So you're a local economist of choice, which he's been telling us for years, right? And you're seeing you're delivering the value. And then you're also going back to the basics of what has always worked in real estate, which is being creating a niche, hyper local in a community, and then you were so involved in that community. And what I love about what you're saying is, exactly what everyone, including Gary, has been talking about is the reason why, Zillow and Redfin and all of these websites started is because they weren't getting the value from agents. And all the sellers really wanted was relevant market data, and for you to actually understand and be able to interpret that data, not put it in front of them,
100%.
but actually interpret it. So I love
100%.
that. And I'm seeing a lot of people that were buying leads. First of all, the companies are all being bought and all this crazy stuff going on. The buyer's agents are kind of in a standstill of what, I'm not making the money I was before. I'm hearing all these complaints, and I just said, well, I have one answer for you. Go get listings, right?
Yeah, I think it's
You're always getting listings.
I think it's great. Well, if you think about it too, right? If you're an individual, not that everyone's individual, but a lot of our luxury agents are individual agents. And I think if you think about it, right, I've had as many as 40 listings at one time, and there's no way I could be working with 40 active buyers, right? That'd be impossible, right? So I can do it with listings. So if you're someone that wanted to scale a business up, you would do it by getting listings, because that's how you scale, because that gives you enough energy to be able to concentrate on so many people that you can scale up. So that's really why I do it. And as I say, I've almost never a lead generator for a buyer, but every year I end up 50-50 buyers and sellers, although I've never lead generated for buyers. So I think, you get business just for the listings. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing about, I'm sorry, the other thing you brought up too is, the websites that I'm doing in this community have schools in them. They're featuring everything, right? So if someone is looking to move to this neighborhood, they would see the schools, they would see the businesses. And I go to those businesses and those schools and say, hey, I'm promoting you on my website. You know what I mean? If you get, I'm expecting referrals back, right? So I go to the businesses, I show them my website, and I'm like, hey, I'm dedicated to your community, and I'm featuring your business on my listing for buyers who are moving into your neighborhood. So I'm not only just peddling real estate, I'm going in there and getting, involved in the community. I actually was a founding member at a local school here in Maui called Maui Prep. It's a very successful school now, 18 years later. But I was a founding member of that, and I was a president of the board for 8 years. It was a miserable, extremely difficult. If anyone tells you to start a school, turn around and run the other way. It's crazy. But it was a great thing for the community. We needed a school. And I have to be honest with you, I think community service is one of the most important things about luxury real estate. And I don't really believe that I ever got into the really, really high upper echelon of our high net worth clients in this community until I made some major commitment to my community to give back, right? So they know what the commissions are on a 10, 12, $15 million deal. They know the expectations are high that, you know, you got to give back. And so I committed a big portion of my life to starting a school, and have donated over $500,000 to the school in my last 10 years. And I'm very committed to that program because it's right and it's the right thing to do. And I've gotten so much personal enjoyment out of it. But it's a thankless job, but it does get great respect when people realize that you're committing yourself to your community. So that's a big part of luxury, in my opinion.
It really is. I think I've always said, if you do the right thing, the money will come. Sometimes you don't
Yeah.
even, you know, you just don't worry about it. If you worry about it not being there, then it's never going to be there. But if you just really focus on giving back and doing what you think is good for your community.
Right. That's exactly right. And then the other thing that I'm really focused on, especially in this market, as we're sort of transitioning out of a peak, you know, the great 2021 market, as we transition out of that, is I'm very focused on trying to be creative. I think that we all know that there's tons of cash out there. There's so many buyers out there that are sort of waiting on the sidelines, sort of watching what's going on. The prices are high. I mean, let's face it, our prices are crazy high, and even higher than 2021. So there's a lot of wait and see going on, and a lot of people watching to see what's going to happen here in the next 5 years or so. And that's why creativity becomes so important right now, because it's on us as agents to draw those people back into that market by being creative. And so for me, one of the creative outlets that I'm pursuing right now is Kohana Homes, as you know. So Kohana Homes is something that I'm very focused on right now, I'm very excited about. It's a co-ownership company. So typically what we're doing is we're creating exclusive partnerships in luxury homes around the country. The typical scenario would be we'd get 2, 3, or 4 buyers together to buy a property, would form an LLC to be the owner of this property. And at the time of forming this LLC with these 3 or 4 people, we set the exit sale date, so that we know that in 8 years' time, this property is going to be sold in the whole ownership market, which is where your upside potential is as a real estate investor, right? The problem with timeshare and fractional in the past is that no one's ever made money on it. You know, you can't get out of it. You know, timeshare, I mean, they bring it away on Maui right now. So what we did is we tried to come up with a solution to this market, which is, you know, the second home market, right? I mean, very much the second home world. So we got people coming and going all the time. So if you're in a market that people are only spending 2-3 months a year in, then Kohana Homes is a really an interesting option for you, because, you know, this is the alternative to vacation renting, right? So vacation renting is facing so many restrictions right now. And a lot of these places like Palm Springs, Napa, Lake Tahoe, Maui, are all facing severe restrictions on rental. So we're looking for alternatives and trying to be creative. And the sharing arrangement seems to be very well received right now. And it's a part of our culture. We share everything right now. We share cars. No one buys boats by themselves anymore. No one buys planes. There's all these sharing arrangements. So sharing is in our culture. And Kohana Homes is the sharing of real estate with an exit strategy, so that you don't get stuck with a piece of something, or fraction or partial interest in an LLC, which is where we've seen a major devaluation of the asset. So in our program, we group people together, they enjoy the property for 8 years, the management, everything is included, it's show up and enjoy for 8 years, and then the LLC sells the property and you either get your money back or you reinvest. But in no instance are we going to have fractional interests in these properties for resale in the market and those kinds of things. So we really pretty focus on what we think is a great option. It's obviously a really attractive thing for a buyer, you know, where you can take a $20 million house and buy it for $4 million, right? And if you're only going to be there 2-3 months a year, it makes a lot of sense. So I can see that Ziba Mohammadi is on the call right here too. I see her right below me on the screen here, and Ziba and I have been working on the last couple of days, a few days actually, on a listing that she just got in Orlando for $30 million, by the way. And
Congratulations.
called us after we did that interview with Caroline Ho on the Luxury Spotlight, and Ziba was on that call. She called me up the next day and said, "Hey, I'm losing a listing in Orlando here because the client had a bad experience with Keller Williams in the past, and wasn't getting the listing." But then when she saw the interview about the Kohana Homes, went back to the client, introduced the concept to the client, and client has become very interested in this idea now, and Ziba got the listing and signed it up. I think it goes on the market tomorrow or the next day. It's an amazing $30 million property. You have to see this. It's incredible, right? So we were able to provide an assist for Ziba to get this deal. We provided a creative option for her to go get that listing that chances are she may not have gotten. And the client is no dummy. He also sees the opportunity of, is it going to be easier to find 4 $7.5 million buyers? Or is it going to be, easier to find a $30 million buyer, right? And so what we're doing with Ziba is we're creating a parallel. She has every right. We have no restriction against her selling the home to an individual buyer for 30 million. But parallel, we also have a program that we're trying to find 4 $7.5 million buyers to be able to sell this property and create the LLC to bring Ziba a full price cash offer. And so you have these sort of two parallel efforts going. Neither restricts the other. And I think that the seller realized that that's a really kind of a great option for these properties, especially as we're moving into these markets, especially as buyers are looking for creative options. For a buyer who's only going to be coming to Orlando 2-3 months a year, why not just pay $7.5 million versus 30 million and share it with 3 other people under a really tight, regulated, all the agreements in place, intensely managed property for 8 years. So that's kind of the program that we're working with. And Ziba's going to send out an email now in the next couple of days with this new listing. It's incredible. And, we'd be looking, part of this program and part of the reason why Kohana Homes worked so hard to be approved by the Keller Williams Luxury Division. So we're now an officially endorsed company with Keller Williams Luxury, is to be able to tap into this network with you agents and take a listing like what Ziba has for $30 million and see if you all can find any $7.5 million buyers who may be interested in buying a $30 million home, right? And using
That's such a great story.
Network. Yeah, using this
and I didn't know
we
that
should all
story.
be using this network. I mean, we have the most amazing network of all, really. The luxury division had $7 billion in agent-to-agent referrals in the first 5 months of this year. I want a piece of that. That's what I want.
17.1 billion last year. 17.1 billion. Last year we had 17.1 billion in referrals out of the almost 95 billion, and that's just above $1 million. Okay, I know some of you have different luxury thresholds depending on where you're zooming in from, and there is the minimum, but that's a really powerful community. I think we have almost 13,000 people that have earned in. So using that on a listing consultation and working together exactly the way that you did, using those numbers, the story, everything like this is a great partnership. I mean, I love it because selfishly, Ziba's in my North Florida region. I'm the luxury ambassador. So I want you all to take the most luxury market share. And I want us to lead the example for others.
Right. And I think as a luxury ambassador, it'd be a great role would be to try to rally us all to sell these kinds of properties for each other. I mean, that's the benefit of the network. Over 50% referrals right now, which is awesome. And a lot of it comes from luxury division. So I'm really stoked about that. But really, I see a much greater opportunity, and a little more focused in on like this listing that Ziba has. Why couldn't we not all go out and try to figure out how to sell this thing? I mean, who doesn't need a $7.5 million sale, right? And we facilitate it all for you. We have all the agreements. We have everything we get on the call with the client. We help them along the way. It's a very simple concept. You're sharing a house with 3 other people for 8 years, and then it sells. And the details of how that works, we can share with you. But it's become very popular. And the reason why our company, Kohana Homes, is quite popular is because we don't resell partial interests or fractions. We only do whole ownership, right? So once we gather 2 or 3 or 4 people together, they go into an LLC, but you never see fractional or anything. It's whole ownership because it's going to sell in 8 years in the whole ownership market. So we're enjoying the benefits of sharing, but we're only selling in whole ownership, and that's where you make money. And that's a creativity that I think is going to be important to draw these people back in. Because if you're thinking about it, if you're a $30 million home buyer, you're like, 30 million seems crazy, right? And those prices are up. So you limit your exposure, you limit your liability, you limit your risk to markets when you reduce it down to a quarter of the price. And 30 million is a big number, right? But if it was 4 million, it'd be $1 million each. I mean, so many people can afford $1 million, but 4 million is kind of tight when you're getting into a community that you're going to only spend 2-3 months a year in. And chances are there are going to be vacation rental restrictions on it, if not now, coming. Right. So, we're a co-ownership company for real estate agents, and that's why we're getting traction. Keller Williams is signed up us. We're affiliated. We're working with Realm as well, Realm Global. And we also formed a partnership with Third Home, which I think is an amazing organization. So Third Home is a part of our program. So if you were, let's just say, someone who bought, a 1/4 interest in Zeba's home for 37.5 million, and you decided that one of those, get 3 months a year. I mean, you get 3 months, right? So you spread the 1 month increments throughout the year, 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, and maybe 1 year, you're not going to use one of those months, right? So instead of going to your home in Orlando, you might want to go to Europe this year. And what you can do is you can submit your time into this exchange, which is a Third Home exchange, which has like 150,000 luxury properties around the world. So if you owned the house in Orlando, you had 3 months and you didn't want to use 1 month, 1 year, you could take that month, put it into the exchange, and then be able to go anywhere in the world and leverage that property or the use of that property into using another one of these amazing properties around the world. You can go to Africa, you can go to Italy this year, you can go anywhere, right? And you're basically exchanging the time in the property that you already own, right? That's an exclusive relationship with Kohana and Third Home, and I believe that there'll be a Third Home relationship evolving into our Keller Williams world as well too. But if you're in a second home market, the one of the challenges is that people feel like they have to go to Maui because they own a second home in Maui, and they kind of want to go to Europe maybe, and so now I can tell people, buy your home in Maui. I'll set you up in Third Home. In fact, we'll cover all of your $10,000 entry fees and all membership fees and all that, so you'll be automatically in. And if you decide in the next whatever years that you want to go to Italy instead, you can trade the use of your home with Third Home exchange. That's really kind of an interesting program, I think, for any second home market, regardless of whether you're in Kohana or not. It's providing solutions, right? That's what we're in the business of right now. Is how do you make sense out of this investment right now when you're paying, you're paying top dollar. How do you make sense of it? Well, you make sense out of it by co-ownership would be one way, but another way would be Third Home, where you can leverage that property into using other properties around the world, not being limited to just one vacation spot. I think that's the business we're in for the next 5 years, is coming up with creative options. And I think alignments are probably the most important thing for us moving forward, is how we can align with other organizations that bring value to what we're doing to our clients. So
I think clients said that's
I'm not just selling a home in Maui. I'm selling a home in Maui that has the right to be able to be exchanged for homes around the world. And I think for a lot of people,
that's exactly what you're doing. You're providing solutions, Dean. What I hear you saying is, okay, there's a lot of change going on, right, with rental ordinances and all of these resort and second home markets, from the mountains to the ocean, right? Gulf of Mexico for us. And you're coming up, I listened to you and Noah the other day, and I was just blown away. I mean, I couldn't keep up taking notes. That's why I selfishly wanted to ask you to be on my call too, so I could, have some more questions. And we'll open up to Q&A here in a minute for all of our guests. So don't worry. I see Mary waiting for to ask a question. You're providing solutions and you're filling a void, not only in the industry, but then you're affiliating and aligning with like-minded businesses, and then bringing that into the Keller Williams world. But you're serving your clients' need.
Right. My production is up this year over last year. So for me, I just realized, man, I need to get some things going. I need to be creative here and come up with some solutions for people and make sure that my business continues to grow. I can't stop. And that's how I've done it.
So we have a few people raising their hand. Are we ready to open it up for question? If you're not asking a question, please put yourself on mute. I'm hearing a little background. Trying to figure out who that is. And you can always take yourself, if you're on a Mac, using your space bar, off mute. Okay, so Wendy, I see your hand up. Would you like to ask Dean a question? Was there anything else you wanted to cover, Dean, before I open it up to Q&A?
No, I think that's it. If any questions, I can I think there's always questions about co-ownership. So I'd be happy to take it.
Perfect. Okay, Wendy.
So my question, and I got an opportunity to listen to you and Noah the other day, and it was awesome. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
My question is, let's say on this $30 million house down in Orlando, what if you have it split into 4 groups and you end up with 3 people that are interested and you're struggling to get that 4th person? How does that work? And do you have to just keep waiting till you find a 4th person, or what happens?
That's a good question. Thank you for bringing that up. So that's going to be one of the challenges, is how fast we can pull off 4 sales of $7.5 million. And I think that's why we're so interested in the network and the alignments and get as many people involved in this as we can. We ideally want to wait till all 4 of them are sold before we actually form the LLC and make the offer to purchase. We run the risk that in the meantime, Ziba is going to sell that property before we get our 4 people together, but that's a chance we take. The seller can also decide, hey, you know what, I got 3, that's good enough. I'm going to go ahead and close, and I'll just stay on as a 4th, or we'll try to continue to find that other 4th. Because if you think about it, if you don't buy a property in the last 2 years, which is where we saw the market ramp up so quickly, if you bought a property 5 years ago, I could probably sell 3/4 of that property, give you all of your investment back, and you'd still have the 3 months that you only ever used anyway. And you'd be fully managed, have no management responsibility moving forward. We'd take care of all the maintenance and management. And then 8 years later, you'd get the remaining balance of your investment back, but you'd have 8 years of enjoyment of the property remaining. Does that make sense? So you could theoretically close with 3, but that'd be the owner's choice. Our goal would be to sell all 4 of them before we get them all together, form the LLC, and deliver a cash offer to the buyer, to the seller. But that's really the seller's choice, what you're saying.
And then at the end of the 8 years, do all 4 people involved in the LLC have to be in agreement on the sale price? Because you obviously put it up for sale then.
Right. Yeah, so that's the one, a lot of the questions and a lot of the things that need to be done to do this whole thing for 8 years will be done by Kohana. We'll be the management company, the manager for the LLC. So not only we facilitate that sale in the beginning, we manage it for 8 years, and we facilitate the sale in the end. So, Kohana will be taking care of all of it. And I think ultimately the decision on how much to sell is one of the decisions that the homeowners will have a choice on. And if they can't choose, we'll go to an appraisal. But there's always a fallback decision, like in 8 years, the house needs to be painted or something crazy, and someone wants to paint it a different color and they can't get agreement on that, then we're just going to go ahead and paint it the same color. There's always a fallback decision that we've sort of built into the agreement so that Kohana can run this property smoothly. We do all the budgeting and the bills and everything. And so you just show up and enjoy. But yes, the one thing that the owners will get to choose is the sale price. And if they can't, we're going to go to an appraisal.
Thank you, Dean.
Yep. Thanks, Wendy.
Great question.
The other question is like default, right? What happens if one party passes away, or one party defaults or something like that? That's always a good question. And, ultimately we have default provisions written to the agreement. Let's just say that we're 5 years in and one party is not able to pay their bills. The other 3 non-defaulting parties can actually pick up that expense, pay the defaulting parties debt or whatever they owe all the way through the 8-year sale and get their money back at the sale in 8 years plus 10% interest. The other alternative, if they hit substantial default, which is significant, then you trigger the right for the non-defaulting parties to purchase that defaulting party's interest at the original purchase price. Unless it goes down, it'll go down, but doesn't go up. Does that make sense? So yes. We have default provisions. We have everything really well written out. The attorneys on the wall who have done, spent countless hours trying to get this all right. It's a new thing, so we didn't have anyone to copy. So we had to actually go and create all this. And it's been a really fun experience. It makes all the sense in the world. If you're in a second home market, like ours, which is down 50% right now, this is a great way as an agent to go out there and create some unique business for yourself, right? So I'm actually out there and I'm calling people in my communities and I'm saying, hey, first of all, they've just gotten 10 calls from other agents that week already because everyone's hitting everyone up to sell. We have no inventory. So I call them up and I go, don't hang up yet. I'm looking for people who don't want to sell, but are only using that property 2 to 3 months and are willing to consider partners to pick up the unused portion, so to speak. And everyone is engaged on that. I've literally, everyone wants to find out what are you talking about? How does this work? So I'm engaging with a lot of people. I'm getting listings literally like every day for co-ownership. It's hard not to make sense out of it, right? So every person that we've talked to, we almost like 100% success rate on every seller that we've talked to participating in this program, right? It just makes all the sense in the world. And we're not, as I say, taking anything away from the ability to sell it to an individual agent like you normally would do. We just have that option out there that everyone's really excited about, because for a lot of people, this is the future of second home, vacation home markets, because there's so much pressure on vacation renting. Think about Lake Tahoe, right? They went from like, that's one of the most popular second home markets in the country. I mean, almost everyone is a second home. No one actually lives there, right? And they just took the right to vacation rent away from those people. So now all of a sudden they're going, well, so now what do we do? No one actually lives here. And even businesses, if you think of businesses in those communities, that's their customer, right? Vacation renters are driving all these second home markets. That's how they live and survive. And you take that away, not only is it hurting a real estate market, but it's hurting all your local businesses as well, too. Yeah. So we're a concept that's been well received by communities, because our concept does not result in new developments of unused homes. It doesn't tax infrastructure because we're putting people into unused homes. We're not doing fractional, we're not doing timeshare, we're not doing vacation renting. We're actually compliant, and we're actually serving communities in the sense that we're putting people in empty homes, and these are customers for local businesses. There's nothing that we're doing really that is hurting a community, and we're, in our opinion, compliant with all the regulations, which is an LLC with 3 or 4 people owning a property. And there's really nothing, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not actually that uncommon, right? So we're compliant. We in many ways benefiting communities, and communities are really concerned about anything right now, right? Anything that doesn't look like something they're familiar with, they get a little nervous. But we're so far, we've had really good luck with people recognizing that we're not negatively impacting communities. We're actually a positive impact, and all of those things they're concerned about, we're not doing. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to get into your communities, to call your farm and your people up and go, hey, have you thought about this? You might find that you'll drag some people into the market who are willing to keep. So our primary focus is to go out to existing owners and find owners who are only using the house 2-3 months a year and are willing to sell that unused portion because they have so much pressure on vacation renting. That's our primary goal. And we would encourage you as agents to go into your communities and see if there are any people out there who may want to consider this as well, and see if you can draw some unique product into your market, because listings are the primary challenge that we face right now. And this way, you can go out and you can get the attention of owners. A lot of the people that I engage with in this conversation, I usually get the listing, even if they don't participate in Kohana. I always get the listing, but it gives me a chance to get in front of people, to show creativity, show I'm trying to come up with the kind of solutions, and people love that, So even if they're not interested in co-ownership, I generally will get the listing too.
That's a great point. I mean, it's somewhat of a listing tool. I mean, obviously, the agent still has the right to sell it on their own, or like you said, they might just love that you're thinking out of the box and you're the only one that said something different, which leads them to believe, well, you're going to do something different with my marketing. I do want to just sell it, and so I'm going to go with you.
That's how you get the listings, I think, is engaging in this conversation, talking about solutions, talking about new ideas. People love that, especially if you're in luxury. It's people are not dummies. They know, they want entrepreneurs working for them, and I think that's sort of the new way. That's our new role, I think, is to really be entrepreneurial and search for solutions, because the old way that we did it it's not going to work anymore.
Yeah. Okay, Richard Curtis. We got a commercial agent on here, Mr. Richard Curtis. He's in my office, one of my offices. Has a question for you. I love it. I love seeing commercial on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I want to get more involved with the luxury agents, because luxury agents deal in high net worth individuals, and a lot of them either own companies or interested in owning commercial real estate, or already own commercial real estate.
I do,
yeah. My question for Dean was, did you mention a minimum size that you're going to be involved with this program?
We don't really have a minimum amount. We really would like to be in the luxury division. That's kind of why we sort of zeroed on and really wanted to be a part of this, because it'd be a lot of work to do a less than $1 million property for sales. It's a lot of work. So typically we're trying to stay in the luxury division, work with luxury agents, and keep that price point up. I think that if it's a referral from Keller Williams Luxury, we'll take it because we want to serve this community. But ultimately, I think our sweet spot is probably like 3-4 million plus. But we're open. If you guys need help, we want to help you and try to get your deals done and help you try to get listings like we did with Siba, and also help your buyers out too, because we talked about how this is a great opportunity for a seller in this market, but a buyer also. How about a buyer who's paying top dollar in this market, thinking that the market's probably going to go down at some point here? Just being able to give them the option of a co-ownership interest to mitigate their risk to the market and to not have to put your lifestyle on hold while you wait to see where the prices come down or not. That's just not in the cards right now. People are like, since COVID, lifestyles become number one consideration, right? It's not the deal or how much. People want the lifestyle. And that's the activity that we're seeing, what driving our market right now. They're not being necessarily limited by how much. They're just going because they want the lifestyle. And I think that that's going to be a great thing for us to keep us moving forward. But we also got to try to make sense out of it for people. And this idea of co-ownership also is very much a commercial concept, right? I mean, it's not uncommon at all that people do partnerships to own commercial real estate. The only thing that's unique about our program is that we set that exit date in advance and make sure that we have a program that is set up to succeed, and that's selling in the whole ownership market and not being stuck with a fraction or a partial interest in something. And it's a commercial, it's really anything real estate, right?
So Farah, that leads us to a question we have in the chat. I'm doing my best to monitor the chat and see who's raising their hand. This is good, Dean. There's a lot of engagement with your call. I normally don't have to go back and forth between the chat and everyone raising their hand.
That's awesome.
Farah says, what if at the 8-year period, the property has had a significant loss in value? Can the 4 owners agree to wait?
Right. So the 4 owners will have the choice to extend. They can shorten the 8 years. They could do 5 years if they want. They could decide at year 7, the market's starting to decline. They don't want to sell. They could bump it to 10 years. And we'll do anything that's a unanimous agreement. If it's not unanimous, then we sort of fall back to our agreements, which is, hey, we agreed to sell in 8 years, we're selling. Now, let's just say there was one person who didn't want to stay on and 3 did want to stay on. There's always an opportunity for those 3 people to buy out the one party, or we continue on and we try to find a replacement for that one person. But ultimately, we don't want to go to the market with a fractional interest, right? So we'll try to find someone internally, or the partners can buy that partner out. But there's kinds of options that happen in 8 years, depending on who the people are and what the intentions are. But there are options. And certainly there's an option to extend that 8-year date if the market's not cooperating, for sure, as long as it's unanimous.
Perfect. Okay, Dorothy Santiago has a question. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Hi, Dean, this has been great. I appreciate you. I had a question, why that number?
What was it, number 8? Is
I'm
that
sorry,
the 8 years?
my internet's a little unstable.
Yeah, it was a little bit broken up there. Did you say why 8 years?
Yes, I
Okay,
may
yeah.
have missed it when you spoke about it, but what's
you didn't miss it.
the
No,
reason?
8 years is the national average for second home ownership. So it's just kind of a arbitrary that we use, and as I say, depending on who the owners are that come in, and they may want to make it 6 years or 8 years or 10 years, whatever it is, we'll go with whatever the group wants to decide. 8 years is where we start because that's the national average. And we also like 8 years because we kind of want the property to appreciate too, right? We're trying to make money on this. Our goal is to make these clients money, and we're the profit-oriented co-ownership company. We're trying to create a scenario where people can actually make money on this, and that's something that people have never been able to do really on fractional. So yes, 8 years is just a kind of a starting place, but that's the national average.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Makes sense. Great question. Okay. We have a few minutes left. I also leave a few minutes, Dean, just so you know if you need to jump off, for anyone to ask questions about the 3 tiers of luxury. I'm getting a lot of questions about the property qualifying, the earn-in, and then the luxury pro. I am in luxury pro. So if anyone has any questions towards the tail end, I'll leave like about 3 to 5 minutes. So we still have a few more minutes with you, Dean. Does anyone else have questions?
I'm a luxury pro member too. I signed up the first day they announced it, you know, and that to me is a no-brainer. And I was when I first started, there was only like 2,000 people in luxury. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I really got to know those people really well. This is where I met Brandy and others, you, Wendy, and people that were like in a really core group of people that really were committed to luxury and focused on luxury. And it was just a core group of people that was awesome. And that's where I get most of my referrals from right now. And then when it changed, it became 13,000, right? And it's awesome. It's a great organization, a great program, and there's so much to benefit from. But we kind of lost a little bit of that close connection with that type group of people. Yeah. And so what Luxury Pro is now evolved into that, right? So that's like the top, I don't know, there's probably 1,000 people or so that have sort of percolated to the surface. And that's a lot of those people, that original group of key people that were committed to it and weren't trying to get into it, but we're in it, right? And so I like the Luxury Pro because it gets me back into that group, that really tight group of people that we've all become great friends. We hang out with all the time. We go on vacation. I went to Mexico with Brandy. It was awesome. And,
yeah, but be careful though, because then your husband becomes good friends with Dean and then they become buddies. And I'm like, what about me, Dean?
I'm a big fan of Brandy's, but I do like her husband as well pretty well. He's a good dude. We have to convince him to join Keller Williams, but no, it's, you know what? We're making lifelong friendships in this group, right? So these are my friends, you know, and these are this is a group, an organization, and a personal relationship with people that I intend to have with my clients, right? So why would you not have that with your agents? So finding those connections and finding those people to bond with and form relationship is great, and that's why you go to the conventions, because the truth is that from the day that I joined, I mean, I was one of those guys that are like, I'll never go to a convention of 20,000 people. That makes no sense at all. I would never do it, right? And I literally have been to every conference. 7 years, I've been to 3 conferences a year, to every one of them. And I just realized from the very beginning that that's where you meet the people, right? That's where I formed those relationships. It was at those conferences. So if you don't go to the conferences, it's insanity. You should be there, because that's really where you establish the relationships that results in more than 50% of your business coming from referrals. And that's what my business is. And it primarily from when I first committed to Keller Williams, I just dove all in and went to every conference. I met everyone. I snuck into parties that I didn't belong at. I somehow convinced Leslie Akers to put me on panels. It was amazing, but you know, I just sort of like weaseled my way into it, and you know, and it's been an amazing experience. I wasn't sure about Keller Williams when I joined, because I was always pure luxury, and I wasn't sure. I just didn't know. Not everyone. When I joined Keller Williams, I had like 30 listings, and 15 people like didn't even know Keller Williams. I was like, oh my God, I got to work. I got to get on this, you know. And that's where I just launched into the luxury division and just pulled all the benefits out, because I actually had to go sell my existing listings on why I did this, right? And then I realized, like, well, this is a pretty good pitch, you know. And I just kept with it, and it's been a great story for me. And as I say, I get more than 50% of my business from referrals. And it's just a great organization. The people are amazing, you know.
Well, I love that you mentioned that you joined Luxury Pro right away, and Zeba's in there. She's said, you know, I became a Luxury Pro right from the beginning. I'm actually in Atlanta, so this is tomorrow. We actually have a speaker, so I'm in a hotel room hiding in one of their little business areas where no one is to do this Zoom. But yeah, it's tomorrow, 11:30 to 2. You can Zoom in, but I think there's something really powerful about doing your best to be in person. So if any of you all are going to be in Atlanta, I'll see you tomorrow, and I'm so excited.
Wish I could be there. If it wasn't a 9-hour flight, I'd be there. And also we had a hurricane heading towards us that's just fizzled into a tropical storm. So I'm like, keep watching outside to see what's going on. But it looks like it'll just fizzle out. But man, it's never a dull moment these days, you know.
Yeah, especially with weather. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other questions for Dean? Otherwise, I'll take some Luxury Pro questions or anything about the Luxury Hub or anything you might have for just the region. See if there's any more questions in the chat.
Yeah, Brandy, I had a quick question for Dean, and I apologize. I did listen to your presentation recently. I think you mentioned, and if you could just clarify, that you're looking at offering Kahana in Europe.
Correct. Yeah. So we're working with the luxury division, right, with Caroline. And they're very big on an international initiative, right? They're really big on trying to grow luxury to become more international. And I think that they see us as the great potential to sort of assist in the in how to sell those international properties, right? So a lot of the buyers around the world are American buyers. And so, you know, I almost got a property in London, but it's sold. This is amazing, like castle in the country. It was just unbelievable. I fell in love with it and wanted to buy it myself. And then, and what happened was it sold. But the point is that what they realized is that most of the people who are looking at those properties are foreigners. They're either, you know, somewhere in Europe or they're American. And it's the same. I'm also looking at 7 luxury homes with the local broker over there. And, you know, it's like the same thing. Like, well, no one actually lives here. You know, they just Americans coming to visit or Europeans, you know, bouncing in and out. And, you know, that's their challenge. And so that's why they're recruiting us. It's like, hey, wait a second. If people are coming and going, you know, this is where Kahana makes sense. And it makes a whole lot of sense in the international market when you're launching from America, from the US, right? With US buyers, because most of them aren't going to be owning it. So again, using this network of people around the world, that we can actually do this anywhere in the world, right? Since we have Keller Williams luxury agents with boots on the ground anywhere, and we jump on Zoom and help people all over the world anytime. But yes, absolutely, 100%. I think that the work we'll be doing with Keller Williams luxury, a lot of it will be focused on international and how to make sense of Americans buying in Bali or in London or somewhere, you know what I mean? So
I think that's also why it's
I
so
think there's a big
important to have.
opportunity there for sure. Yeah.
I think that's a lot of questions I'm getting too about the reception, how we used to have a luxury reception. Well, I think there was a want and a need, especially with worldwide, to really connect with luxury. So we are doing a combined communities. And I think that's a huge advantage. It's for us to meet people that have traveled, you know, to come to Mega Camp and to come to family reunion, especially the new countries. They want to come over as soon as they're announced that we have launched a KW in their country. How exciting is that for us to be able to meet them and for them to come and introduce us and let us, or introduce themselves about launching in their region or their country.
Right. And they're doing it because they know Americans are the buyers. You know, Americans are the consumers of the world. We've got to love it. You know, they know that for their businesses to be successful, they need to establish a network with American agents, and that's exactly what we did in Maui, right? So it's a small world nowadays, right? So it's like one world, and we're all in it, and we can sell anywhere in the world. That's the beauty of it, and it's going to be a big part of the future for us, I think, in Keller Williams luxury.
I love it. Well, I want to let everyone know, because I'm getting some questions privately on whether or not this is being recorded. It is. You can see on the screen here. We post it on the regional North Florida Leadership Hub. If you're not in the region, it's also on my YouTube channel. So I will be posting that either later today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we have time for about one more question. Everyone's really cheering on Ziva, so we're so excited that, you know, after one talk with I think it was the Earn In and Luxury Pro agents were on that specific call with you and Noah, how that opened up to a $30 million listing.
Lots of activity,
that's just powerful.
And as I say, and I'm in Maui, so it's easy for me to get listings here. So I'm getting listings every day, literally. I mean, I took a $12 million listing yesterday. That'll be a $3 million 1/4 interest. I have another 15 million coming on in the next couple of days. So it's if you want to get listings, I think it's a great way to go out and hustle and get listings and be creative and show people that you have game, you know, and get out there. It literally, I'm actually stopping now trying to get listings. So I need to start selling some of these things. So, and in order to sell them, we really need the help of the real estate community. So I'm hitting all the Maui brokers up, I'm hitting all the Keller Williams up. I mean, if it clients that come to Maui, let them know, you know, or anywhere really now. I would be out there in the communities and second home communities getting listings right now, because that's where it's going to be. If you can get listings, it's golden, right? So go out there and get some unique product, be creative, give people some different options. And I think that you're going to find people are going to love it, because they're all sitting here listening to the same media that, you know, news that we are, which is everything is heading down and is changing. And to me, that's a great opportunity. This is where we make our money, and this is where we gain market share. And our business is booming over here right now. So
you said something interesting, and we'll kind of end on this, because I think this was really powerful. And it's so funny that you brought it up on our call preparing for this, and you reiterated it today. And I had just spoken with one of my agents on my ALC, and we talked about combining at least our 2 market centers, if not eventually expanding it through all the market centers in our area for Southwest Florida, of really getting together and collaborating and planning and preparing and implementing around farming different neighborhoods and having different agents focused on different neighborhoods versus us all marketing to one neighborhood and then nothing sticks. So I thought that was really powerful that you were already talking about that. And I was having a conversation with this agent on the ALC for her committee. So I think if anyone on here is listening to that as a region, as an area in which you serve, ALC members, I think that would be amazing to go and just take market share. And especially, you know, I'm going to be a little biased with North Florida. I would love to see that in my region.
Well, it makes sense, right? If you think about it, all luxury agents are all chasing the same people, right? In the same markets, and then it kind of doesn't make sense, really, right? So I think that, to me, I like the idea of divide and conquer, you know, and people are already settled into communities, get that established, you know, and then kind of pick up and, you know, connect it all, right? And then connect the dots, and then people, you know, people are going to work with that because they know it's not just one person. You're building a network, right? And that if you all work with each other, then that's going to be attractive for a seller. But for all of us to be marketing to the same, casting our net too wide, marketing to everyone's confusing for the consumer, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And if you can't deliver the kind of level of detail that I'm talking about, which is build a website and really commit to these communities, you can't do that on a very big, large scale. You really have to zero in on a small community to be able to deliver real value to that seller, right? So to give them the sale, I mean, every seller really, what they really want to know is what's listed for sale, what's sold, you know? So, but whoever does that, right? Whoever's got sold on their website. And some people do, but I mean, I go in and go for the last 20 years, this is what's sold in your neighborhood. Here's all the floor plans, here's all the pictures, here's the community events, here's the businesses. This is dedicated to this community, and sellers will love that, I can guarantee it, because they see you committed to them versus getting a letter in the mail, looking up on the website and seeing that there's absolutely no connection between that agent and this market or this listing or this neighborhood, you know. So to me, farming is everything. But farming with value and really going deep into websites and campaigns just specifically around that group, and you get so much more traction that way. So,
wow, Dean, I want to respect your time. We've taken an hour of it, and I know you have a lot of listings, and you also have this new business adventure, which obviously is very successful. It's already working, and it's filling a void in our industry.
So. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about it. Florida's been I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, very excited about this new program in Florida, because so many of the inquiries and interest that we've gotten comes from Florida for some reason. And then working with Zeba to get that $30 million listing. So please, all of you, keep a lookout for that. It's going to be launching on the next day or two. And, you know, we'll be looking for you guys to help us sell that. So, you know, to me, it's kind of like divide and conquer in a market to get listings. Here, we have this amazing network of people sitting on these huge, big databases, sitting there. And, you know, we would like to be able to create some of these unique opportunities for you guys to go to your database and say, hey, have you ever thought about this? You know, what about this idea? You could buy a $30 million home for $7.5 million. And, you know, just get it out there, and what you'll find is that people are very interested because everyone's looking for a new angle. And, you know, it's an opportunity that makes a lot of sense for a seller and a buyer, right? You're lowering your price point for 7.5. A seller's getting 3/4 of the money back and still has what they had. So
I think it's great in this group too, as we've gotten to know each other. Something we've done with our group is asking, hey, you know, does anyone have something they want me to promote to my database with my newsletter, or, you know, contacting my database? I mean, I would love to help you, Zeba. So with your permission, I'd love to include it. And anyone on this call can anytime reach out to me. My newsletter goes out the last week of the month. I'm sure anyone else on this call would love to offer you that same service. So let's all help each other.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's absolutely right. And just within the luxury community, I think that we can really work better to collaborate with each other. I always tell people that I'm happy to share my listings with anyone around the country. You know, so if you don't have anything to promote, I just listed a beautiful $12 million estate in Maui that would blow your socks off. And it's no reason why you wouldn't be promoting that property anywhere. I sold a $15.5 million house last year to someone from Florida. And the backup buyer was from Dallas, Texas, 15.5 million, both cash, and the Florida and from Texas. So these people they're doing it, you just don't realize it. But I would get into them and not only find out whether they are interested in purchasing in their neighborhood or selling in their communities, but where they're vacationing and have they ever thought about this concept in vacationing. And you might find that there's a lot of interest out there is what we're finding.
The more questions you ask during that consultation, not do a presentation, it turns into helping them build their wealth, and then you build yours, and then you can give back more to your communities. So,
Right, you have to
and
ask
they'll
the
give back
questions.
more.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions, you know, a lot of how you live, what your lifestyles, and just really getting to know people, which is fun. That's the fun part, you know.
Yeah, and you get to make friends, like you said. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Again, anyone reach out to me if you need anything as your North Florida Regional Ambassador. Dean, I hope to see you soon at Mega Camp. If
I'll be at Mega Camp
both
for
gonna be
sure.
there. Okay, great. Wonderful. I know you always attend. All right, everyone, have a great day. See you next month.
Thanks, Brandy.
Brandy.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
My pleasure.
Have a great day.
Bye.